Hello! Welcome to a Gadget Hovel YouTube video game video thing. This is a recording of me playing Kerbal Space Program, and I'm flying to the moon. I'm Todd A. Selvin, by the way, from GadgetHovel.com. Flying to the moon. Now, I've done this before. You've seen at least one other video where I flew to the moon, landed Kerbals on the moon, walked around, and then flew back to planet Kerbin. And that's what I'm trying to do here. This is a round trip journey to the Mun to land on it and then fly back safe and sound. Get the crew back safe and sound. The difference, I love this shot. The empty stage after it's been disconnected, looking at it through the window from inside the rocket. I love those internal looking through the window shots. Very cool. I think Kerbal Space Program is a beautiful game, but I'm a science nerd. And well, I'm a space nerd anyway. And I guess I'm a science nerd. I don't know much about most science, but that's really neither here nor there. The point of this was a clean install of Kerbal Space Program, and there's no mechanical jeb. There's no mods of any kind, no mods at all. So, there's no autopiloting here. This is all stock parts and me flying it by hand and just using the tools that are available inside the game. And the other time I went to the Mun, landed and came back again, I did have mechanical jeb. And mechanical jeb assisted with things like orbital rendezvous and dockings and stuff. So I wanted to try all vanilla, without an autopilot. So I constructed this little rocket, and there were actually several attempts that you didn't see, but this was the first attempt that made it all the way to the Mun. And here I am trying to land, and you know what? I probably should have picked a flatter piece of terrain. But I was just so excited to have finally gotten here, and I really thought that those legs would not, you know, topple over sideways. I kind of like how the command module here just slides downhill. I mean, if you could do this on purpose, like at home on like a snowy hillside, this would probably be a fun little slide. But anyway, so yeah, I could have saved and reloaded and tried the landing again, but I thought, you know, what's more fun than a rescue mission? So that's exactly what we're about to do now, is rescue. So the first rocket obviously got us all the way to the Mun, and I thought it was going to bring us back, and I think it probably would have. It didn't have a ton of fuel, but it was not. It didn't really need a lot of fuel because lifting off from the Mun is easy. There's no atmosphere to fight, no atmospheric friction to slow you down or to fight against you. So I think if I had nailed the landing, I probably could have flown back. And then once you get in Kerbin's atmosphere, all landing would have required was deploying the parachute. But anyway, obviously that's not going to happen because the rocket crashed and it didn't explode, but the part of the ship where the people live and the part of the ship with the engine became separated, and so that's not going to work anymore. Maybe one day Kerbal Space Program will give the Kerbal welding torches so that in the event of a spontaneous disassembly of the rocket, they can get out and weld it back together. And I guess it's unfair to say that the rocket disassembled spontaneously. It disassembled as a result of my terrible piloting skills in terms of landing. Um, and again, I shouldn't have been impatient. I should have been like, let's find some place flat. But anyway, after that debacle of the first crash landing, this rescue ship, obviously, I'm going to be much more careful with. Now, the rescue ship, you'll notice I have a ton of fuel left, In fact, I have so much fuel. The landing legs here are on the top part of the module. I had assumed that I would use up those bottom fuel tanks already, and they're still almost full. So it was kind of a waste. I brought way more gas than I needed to. I really overcorrected. With the rescue mission, I brought more fuel, more gas, more thrust than I needed. So I'm going to have to jettison this bottom stage here pretty soon and just abandon this jet fuel on the surface of the Mun because I can't land with it. I mean, arguably, I have a hard time landing even when I actually have the landing legs touching the ground, but I certainly can't land with this thing in the way. So anyway, um, but yeah, not only did I over engineer in terms of bringing too much gas, but I also wanted to make the landing module um, as light as possible. And I don't know why. Honestly, well, part of it was that I wanted to send this as an unmanned vessel, right? Because I need to get 3 people in it. And so if you send a module that can support 3 passengers and a fourth person piloting, then it becomes a bigger, heavier craft than the initial Munshot, than the initial KSP Moses that was supposed to land and then return. So I wanted to create a rescue vessel that was lighter and more versatile and would be able to carry the 3 Kerbals not all the way to the surface of Kerbin, but would be able to get them off the Mun and back into orbit around Kerbin, where another ship would rendezvous with them, pick up the passengers, and re-enter the atmosphere. So this ship has no cockpit. It just has chairs for the Kerbals to sit on the chairs while they still wear their spacesuits and fly through space. Uh, as a real life space simulation, this mission is probably a little silly because they would never do this. But see, there we go. I have to get that bottom stage out of the way so my legs can come down. And look at that. I still haven't learned to find a flat landing zone. See, and I thought I had it, but nope. And you see, I did break a solar panel as I tipped over. So here, since this is unmanned, I figure, what the heck? Why not play with it? And by uh, retracting and then sticking out and retracting and sticking out the landing legs and playing around with the RCS thrusters and the fuel and the main engine, um, I was able eventually to get it flipped over and airborne again. And one of the solar panels is still good. Of course, I retracted it as soon as we fell over sideways. And yeah, so here I am sideways again. So we're gonna play with the legs and the RCS and there. There, we're good. We're now the Kerbin to Mun taxi service is now ready to pick up passengers. But of course, without mechanical jab, precision maneuvers are very very difficult for me. I mean, the Mun is not as big as the planet Earth or the planet Kerbin, but still, when you think about trying to hit a target on the surface of a giant, of like our moon, for example, or the Mun, that's a very difficult target to hit. You got to be a really good pilot. So I got close, and I figured, if the unmanned rescue ship can get within walking distance or within personal jetpack distance of the Kerbal knots, that would be close enough. So there we go. Well, that's not elegant, but they're okay. Look how far they slide. I swear, the surface of the Mun looks all rough and full of potholes and craters and everything, but look at how they slide. It must actually be like glass, like just a sheet of ice, because there's no friction stopping them from just sliding across the whole planet. Anyway, here we go again. Yeah. So, like I say, without an autopilot, I'm actually happy that I got the lander as close as I did. Now, I could have gone to the Moses 2, the little rescue ship here, and flown and tried to fly it over to the Kerbal some more, but fuel was an issue here. Even though the this is really not a very good rescue mission. The segment that I let go of that had a lot of extra fuel, I could have used that gas, except that the landing pod was designed to have jettisoned that already. So now this lander, as light and compact as it is, and I have successfully made it very light and compact, and everything, but it doesn't really have enough fuel to get all the way back to planet Kerbin, which is okay because without a cockpit and without parachutes, there would be no way for this vehicle to land anyway on planet Kerbin to enter its atmosphere and keep the crew alive. But that's okay. The rescue mission was planned to be two parts. And so this vessel, this rescue vessel, its only mission is to get these guys off the surface of the Mun and to Kerbin orbit where they can intercept with another ship, or another ship can intercept with it. Now look how good this is. The second time, this Kerbal just lands right in the chair. The other one is tripping and sliding across the planet and monking his head. And this last guy, and the second guy just flew right into the chair, no problem. And this guy got in because he had been playing with his rocket pack, so he got in to fuel up on rocket pack jet fuel, and then we paused the game for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know why I paused the game. I know I've checked random parts of the recording, and eventually the game does get going again. There we go. So anyway, this is so professional. Anyway, so here he is. Here's the last guy. He got in the command module to refuel his jetpack. Maybe maybe he turned off the lights. He flipped the light switch to off. Sent a final message back to Planet Kerbin. The rescue pod has landed. My comrades are already in their chairs, and I am leaving. Oh, yeah, this last guy, well, at least he's having fun. He's got a positive attitude and a smiling face. This last guy, I think I got cocky, and this guy did not land in the seat like the second guy. The middle guy did really good. Maybe from now on, give me the name of that middle guy. He is going to get a promotion, and from now on, he is the pilot. These other two, I don't know what they're good for. They're sliding around on the surface of the Mun. They're just silly. But anyway, yeah. So the landing module has been shut down, and we are boarding our escape craft. It occurred to me while I was doing this that actually, if I had sent this vessel ahead of time, you could launch a mission to the Mun where you send a ship, an unmanned ship, ahead of time that is designed to return them. And then you could build a ship that all it had to do was reach them on and land near the return home ship. There we go. That's not a perfectly smooth. Straighten it out. Oh, well, no. Here we want to go this way because we're trying to get horizontal velocity to achieve orbit around the Mun. But yeah, you could send the rescue vessel, so to speak, ahead of time, and then as long as the lander landed near the rescue vessel, then they could transfer to that ship and fly home. The advantage there would just be that sometimes it's hard, especially for people who aren't terribly good at the game, like me. Sometimes it's hard to build a spaceship that can fly all the way to the Mun, land, and take off and fly all the way back. So if you send a ship to the Mun that is only designed to go halfway, you know. But I guess the rescue vessel still has to go to it and back again, so maybe that doesn't really save you anything. The advantage to this rescue vessel was that it didn't have a cockpit, so it didn't have any of that life support and stuff. That's what made it lighter. Here, I've used up all the fuel, all the gas, and I'm using the RCS, maneuvering jets to try to slow down just a little bit more. You can see I still have a very wide eccentric orbit around Kerbin, but that's okay. Uh, the Moses 1 crashed on the Mun, but got our people there. The Moses 2 got to the Mun and got our people off the surface. And the Moses 3 is going to bring our Kerbal astronauts, Kerbal knots. Anyway, well, bring our brave team of astronauts from their little lawn chairs in space back down into the atmosphere. This is equipped with one pod for a pilot and a pod that could actually carry up to 4 passengers, but we only have 3. But anyway, so this is a heavier ship than any of the others I'd already sent because it has the command module with life support for not only one person but then a passenger module too. And so that's why I didn't want to try to send this ship all the way to the Mun. I just wanted it to be able to get into orbit, rendezvous with the other ship, and take the people on board, and then enter Kerbin's atmosphere and keep its people alive and get everyone back down to the planet. So you'll notice the first 3 astronauts that went to the Mun and have now come halfway back were like just random generated Kerbal knots. But who is piloting the Moses 3 rescue vessel? Who is saving the day? Who is the big hero who's rescuing our brave Kerbal stranded in space? It is Jebediah. Obviously, at this point, I decided I needed to bring out the big guns. Those rookies were messing everything up. It was time to go to an experienced, heroic astronaut, and that, as everybody knows, that's Jebediah. Jebediah, I think, has been in Kerbal Space Program since the very beginning. He's the oldest, most experienced, and most famousest of Kerbal knots, and so he is the one piloting the Moses 3, uh, rescuing everybody. Incidentally, it's named Moses 3 because the last time I went to the Mun, I flew a 2-part ship, and one of the modules was, and both of the modules were named after Robert and Gracie's little dash hounds. And because I was house sitting or dog sitting or something for a brief period of time while I was working on that mission or brainstorming for it or something. So anyway, so I named that last mission after some dogs. So this spaceship, the Moses 1, Moses 2, and Moses 3, are named after a dog that my friend Enrique is dog sitting for right now. Moses. Moses is a great dog. He's a big dog, but he's so laid back and chill, and he's awesome. So anyway, so I guess now when I send spaceships to the Mun, I have a established a precedence of naming them after dogs. I know, so that's where the name comes from. Anyway, so this is an extremely tricky maneuver. Originally, I designed the Moses 1 to go to the Mun and back again without doing any rendezvous. The last mission to the Mun did have 2 separate segments of the ship that rendezvoused around Kerbin, flew to the Mun, then disconnected so one could land and one could stay in orbit, and then rendezvoused and in connected together again to fly back home. So I had 2 rendezvous, and I only attempted that because I had Mechanical Jeb, the autopilot mod that could do a lot of that rendezvousing for me. So this was a maneuver that I really hesitated. When I was considering my rescue plan, I really weighed the pros and cons of doing one ship to go to the Mun, pick them up, and flying all the way back home, and doing 2 ships. And 2 ships, the advantages were that they could be lighter, but the disadvantage was I'd have to do uh, a rendezvous like this. And if it's hard, 2 spaceships in the vastness of outer space they're very tiny, and it takes a lot of precision to get them anywhere near each other. So it's a very hard maneuver. Dockings and rendezvous are the hardest thing for me to do in the game. It's easier for me to fly to a faraway planet like Jewel than to get 2 ships to rendezvous and dock together in orbit of Kerbin, you know, just because it's such a precision maneuver. So you can see, I certainly am not docking these ships together. I just barely got the rendezvous so that the ships were close enough that, again, I'm relying on the individual Kerbal's jetpacks. Here I am flying around the ship. I'm looking for the door. I can't find the door. Here is our rescue ship. My life has been saved. If only I could find the door to get inside. They, there's snacks, there's soda and chips just inside this. If I could just find the door. Anyway, so yeah, I didn't try to get close enough to dock. I didn't get very close at all and just figured they can jump out and use their jetpacks. But actually, without realizing it, look how close. By the time the third guy's going, look how close the 2 ships are. I hadn't really expected it, but just the way their momentum was carrying them and drifting towards each other, as I started piloting the individual Kerbals to have them jetpack over, the two ships actually got closer than I expected. Oops, he bumped his head, kind of floated away, but there we go, back inside. So yeah, I actually got what within 200 meters of each other. So anyway, I got closer than I thought I would. But here we are inside the ship. This is inside the passenger module, and we can see all three of our Kerbals. And they've been living in those spacesuits for a long time, so I'm sure they're happy to take their helmets off at least. Rescue, final stage. This is so we've got the Kerbals on board the final Moses 3 return to planet vehicle. the and now it's easy. Really, all the hard parts have been finished. We've landed on the Mun twice, once without breaking anything. Well, technically that's not true. Even the rescue ship tipped over and broke the solar panel, one of the two solar panels. But anyway, it was still functional though. So we've landed on the Mun twice, once well enough to still be able to fly afterwards, and we've taken off from the Mun once, and we've performed a rendezvous and transferred the crew onto the rescue vessel, and now four brave Kerbal Knots are doing the easiest part of this whole mission. Really, it's just a matter of falling. Anybody can fall. You don't have to be a rocket scientist or an astronaut to fall. Well, maybe you have to be pretty clever to be able to fall from this height and not die. Had a little extra gas left, so tried to decelerate a bit while we were going through the reentry fireball. Not that it was really necessary. Okay, let go of that last stage, and now it's just the command module, the passenger module, and a fuel tank of RCS gas to run the maneuvering jets, and a buttload of parachutes. And you can see this final portion went flawlessly. Well, like I say, getting back to Kerbal, as long as you have enough gas to slow down, and just let Kerbin's gravity pull you towards it, and as long as you have enough parachutes, then you're golden. If one day they make that reentry fireball do damage and maybe make you need heat shields or have to go at certain low velocities or something, then it'll get way harder. But right now, just deploy the parachute and, eat some chips. So there we go. There we go. Without any sort of mods, without any cheats, without any, well, I won't say without any mistakes. There were tons of mistakes. And I didn't even show you all of them. There were several rockets that I launched multiple times and they never worked and I scrapped them. Like this one. This is just kind of the blooper wheel at the end. This was my first module to land on the Mun, and you can see it didn't work. Yeah. So anyway, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the show.